of the Eat for Life podcast, your home for entrepreneurship, esports, education, and entertainment. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Howard.
Sebastian Burton checking in with y'all.
Brad Infamy, your master geetress.
And Derek, a.k.a. Mr. Dope Work, is in the building. Marcus, I know we've been excited about this episode. What do we have this week?
This is incredible. We've got a legend in the space, 30 years in the game, no pun intended, the one and only Karthik Bala. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, good to be here. It's going to be fun.
I'll give you the big shout out, Karthik. You get another one. Welcome in. Knockout City season. We're in the month of May. It's finally here. We've been waiting 11 long weeks, and we're almost at that date. We cannot wait. Welcome to the Eat for Life podcast, and thank everybody across all platforms tuned in, because we're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitch, and we're live on Facebook. So welcome everybody who's in here. Thank you guys. This is a big moment because Karthik's behind some of the most amazing games of all time, and him and his team are, and now we get to see what's under the hood of the new projects. So super excited, and thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Karthik, some people I think don't know who you are. To be candid, I didn't know who you were. It's about 4 weeks ago after I played Knockout City. So can you help the audience, people who are just now hearing about you, learn the games you've worked on? I'm sure they know the games you've worked on, but they might not know who you are.
As it should be. It's more about the games, right? So Karthik Bala, I'm CEO of Velan Studios. We're an indie studio. We're based in upstate New York. And we've got a new game coming out, Knockout City, which we announced about 11 weeks ago. Lucky enough to announce it at the Nintendo Direct, and then we had a follow-up on the Sony State of Play a week later. And we've had a couple of betas that have been pretty successful. It seems like a lot of people out there are anticipating the game, which is great. It's a game we've been working on for 4 years now, and it's coming out on May 21st. So it's a cross-play, online multiplayer, dodge brawl game.
Dodge brawl.
And we're pretty excited about it. But yeah, just a little bit about me. I've been making games for 30 years now. Actually, so my first studio was Vicarious Visions, which I started with my brother Guha, and we started it in high school. Cut school, went and got the company registered, and had some friends in high school working on our first game. Got our first publishing deal when I was a freshman in college. My brother was a high school senior. And made a lot of games. So, Vicarious, actually, last Monday, May 3rd, was Vicarious Vision's 30th anniversary. So it just happened. Pretty great.
Most of my life. Most of my life right there.
Now it's a little low.
I'm level 33. That is most of my life.
Classic studio.
It's funny, is classic behind so many different games, especially giving us ports and remakes and everything. I was looking at an interview of yours of how it was embarrassing on how you got the name for Vicarious Visions. I was like, okay, cool, because a lot of people, especially we have a lot of, especially nowadays, there's so many young people that want to make video games. Was great also is seeing more people of color a part of studios and wanting to be in the industry as well. And you say y'all started off in high school. Besides that challenge of naming your company, what made y'all want to be game developers and start Vicarious Visions?
Well, yeah, okay. So a lot of challenges. Certainly, we were gamers. Actually, I didn't get my first computer until I was 13. We couldn't afford it, and so that was also around the time when I got an NES, and before that it was like going over to friend's house and playing there, and just totally fell in love with doing that, and actually because we couldn't afford to buy a lot of games, we got into, well, can we tinker around and make something, and that was a little bit about how we got started. And actually, I was fortunate enough to have a mentor in high school, and that was pretty critical, because when I was 15, I met a guy who was starting his own company in his basement with his brother, and he was an engineer. They were both engineers, and they had left their jobs at like Kodak and Xerox, and they were doing a startup, and they were actually designing multimedia sound cards for PCs before PCs could do anything with digital audio and all that. And they were pioneers. And so he was doing his startup. His guy's name was Paul Travers, and and I met him through a weird set of circumstances. Actually, I was looking in the newspaper for like used parts to build my computer, because I couldn't afford to buy anything new, and through that, I found out about this guy, and I met with him, and he asked me, well, why are you interested in doing all of this? And I said, oh, maybe one day I want to make a video game. He's like, well, why don't you do it? I said, I'm just a kid. What do I know? And I didn't even know how to program or anything like that. And he's like, well, that's not an excuse. And so he just went to his bookshelf and he pulled out a programming book and a floppy disk with like a compiler and like an animation program. And he's like, go learn it, figure it out. And that was kind of the start, and, this is before internet. This is before there were middleware and tech tools out there. There was no Unity or Unreal or anything like that. So you had to develop all of this stuff from scratch, and there wasn't a lot of good info out there. So figuring out how to make games by playing games, by thinking about it, by reading things in magazines and other resources. It's not like you could go to school for it. There was computer science, sure, not much in high school. And at the time, early '90s, like this is before CD-ROM, before internet, went mainstream. So we just starved for information. So that was part of the challenge, and we were being scrappy, entrepreneurs. I ended up going to trade shows, working for Paul, and I met other game developers that way. And I got to work on like VR back in 1994, which was just pretty wild, and some pretty cutting edge stuff. So that's kind of how we got our start, and so it took a while. It took 5 years to make our first game, about 3 years in high school until we got our publishing deal and we had a demo, and we thought we were going to be rich and famous when we published our first game, and that didn't quite work out that way. I was actually left in a lot of debt because you're in college. Credit card companies will give you credit cards, right? We all know this,
Yep.
and
Right. Right.
so I kind of ran up a lot of debt, and I had to figure out what the next move was, because even though I got first game published, we totally got screwed on our publishing deal and didn't get the royalties that was owed to us, and we didn't have money to go get a lawyer or anything, and it's kind of how it was. And so it was it was kind of, do I focus on finishing school and just get a real job, or figure out how to keep going? And that these are choices that these are choices that entrepreneurs face all the time. And and so I remember I called up my dad. It was actually Christmas of 1996. I called up my dad and I said, hey, I'm in a lot of debt, and and he's like, how? And I said, I'm in trouble, and he's like, how much trouble?
Huh.
And I told him the number, and it was like, this is the best piece of advice he ever gave me in my life. I told him the number. It was like pause, and he said, I don't have that kind of money. you got yourself into this mess. Get yourself out." And he hung up on me.
Mm.
That was
Mm.
Christmas. That was Christmas, 1996.
Ha.
That was my
Ha.
Christmas present.
Ha. Karthik, I want to
So
ask you
you
a
had to
question.
figure it out.
I want to ask
You
you a
gotta figure it out.
question. As an entrepreneur, like I want to take a step back because I just spent this whole week waxing poetic on the importance of like doing things like trade shows and being a brand ambassador. So like I want you to kind of let us know like what were the value adds of going to those events and like working for Paul and like as you built, you know,
Oh yeah.
as you built the brand for Vicarious and the obviously the track record. What was it like working those events and um, you know, because a lot of people don't get that like being an indie developer is like just a form of entrepreneurship, right? So
Oh,
how did it help you in that journey? And you know, I really want everybody to tune in on that because you know we all got to find a way to build the boat while we're swimming. You know what I mean?
totally it. Staying humble and just like learning. I mean, working those shows is hard work. It's just like it's nonstop. And as much as you've got to, I was doing the show, working the booths and all that stuff, and
Was it like
at the
E3?
same time meeting. It was actually before E3 started. It ended up E3 was 1995 was the first one, and
Mm-hmm.
before E3 was just the Consumer
Yes,
Electronics Show, which
stuff.
is CES, which is in Vegas every year, but it used to be Chicago in the summer and Vegas, in the winter. And so we used to do CES and other shows. But you're working the shows, you're meeting people, and you're just sort of staying humble and you're learning and you're kind of just picking up how people are doing business, and like how they're talking about things. You're figuring out who's who, and you're just eager to help, eager to learn, whatever needs to get done. And the surprising thing is like, especially in the games industry, is like people are pretty cool. They're like really willing to help out. They're willing to like treat you with respect. They know that you're trying to break in and figure this out, and they kind of make the time because they all went through it too. Especially like back then, there was no easy path in, and
Right.
people were figuring things out. And so it was good. I remember like my first show, I was just grinning. I was like smiling like Marcus. Like and it was the third day of the show, and I'm like, I got this biggest grin on my face. And like I remember this one guy saying, "This is your first show, isn't it?" And like, because I was just happy to be there,
Right.
and
Right.
uh,
Right.
so you learn a lot, and you see how hard other people work as well, and you just pick up on the small details, and you kind of check any kind of ego at the door because you're surrounded by the giants, and like
For
it's
sure.
pretty it was a great experience, but it kind of taught you to be kind of scrappy, figure out how to kind of work it, and to be able to, meet people and kind of get deals done. That's what we needed to do, and start, making contacts in the industry who are also willing to help. And so that ended up sort of leading to other mentors and people, who are willing to help.
And you were getting paid during that as well, right?
Did it all for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So the first 7 years of Vicarious, I didn't get a paycheck. I was working other jobs. Like in high school, I had other jobs. I worked for tips at an art gallery, checking coats and whatever, and like whatever job I could get so that I can put money into the company. That's what it took. And
Hard fact.
it's and then even after getting a paycheck, we were able to get some angel investors in, and that money went by like that. And but it was again the mentorship and support that we needed, and we got into developing for the Game Boy, and we had to be scrappy scrappy about that. And I'll tell you this story. I don't think I ever told the story in public, but here goes.
We got an
So
exclusive.
Exclusive.
this is a funny story, and I don't think anybody might. So we got an opportunity to work on games for Game Boy Color as the Game Boy Color was coming out. And the Game Boy came out in 1988, right? So it was the black and white, the dot matrix Game Boy. And 10 years later, 1998, is when the Game Boy Color came out. And we got an opportunity to work on some games for that. And so we're like, hey, if there's a paycheck in it to be able to make some games, great. Let's use it to kind of build a company. And so Nintendo was cool with giving out a license, and to work on consoles, you have to get a license to be able to do that, as a developer. And it was much tougher to get that back then. It's a little bit easier now, but it was really difficult to become a licensed, approved developer. But nobody was working on Game Boy, the whole black and white Game Boy that was 10 years old, right? So we were able to get the Game Boy license, and we started working on games for that, and then Nintendo came out with this little game called Pocket Monsters that they then called Pokemon, and that thing blew up.
Boy, I had
And so
that on the
then
teal Game Boy. I had
was-
that on the teal Game Boy.
Yeah, the Game Boy Color became the new hotness, and we were doing development for Game Boy Color, and I went to Sony, and I told them that I'll have a Nintendo license. So they said, okay, we'll give you a PlayStation license. I didn't tell them it was a Game Boy license.
Mm.
PlayStation
Oh,
license.
smooth.
And I went back, and then I went back to Nintendo, and I said, well, Sony gave me a PlayStation license. And they're like, well, here you go. Here's a Nintendo 64 license. You can start developing on Nintendo 64. So then I went to Sega, and I said, well, I got a PlayStation and Nintendo 64 license. Let me develop for the Dreamcast. And so then I got the Sega Dreamcast, license, and all of a sudden we had some street cred because as developers weren't just PC developers; we were able to develop on console as well. And
That's dope.
we were building up, the studio, and so we were working on some Game Boy Color games, and some small licenses and stuff. And then Activision took notice of what we were doing on Game Boy Color, and we actually did some really cool stuff on the Game Boy. We were like the first developers to figure out how to have like voice playback on the Game Boy Color, and there was no digital audio capabilities on that system, and we figured out how to do it. And Nintendo took notice of that, and they thought it was pretty cool. And we got our first gig to do Spider-Man on Game Boy Color before the Spider-Man movies and stuff came out. And we did that for Activision, and that came out really well. And Nintendo thought it was one of the best games on the Game Boy Color, and because of that, they gave us secret access to the Game Boy Advance about a year and a bit before it came out. And we were actually one of the first developers in North America to get the development kit for it.
Oh.
And so we got this Spider-Man game that we were finishing up on, and then disaster hit, for the studio. I'll tell you what happened. It was so you think, okay, I'm getting a paycheck. We've got people we've got hired. We've got some games that we've made. We're cruising now, and we had about 45 people on the payroll, and like one of the publishers that we were working with that was writing most of the checks, they went bankrupt. So all of a sudden, I lost like $2 million worth of contracts overnight.
Damn.
And we had 45 people on the payroll, right? Wow. And so my bro and I, we had to go get a loan. We had to get a bank loan.
Wow.
And turns out the banks don't want to give you money when you actually need it.
Right.
So
right.
that was a hard lesson, right? And but we had to get a loan, and we had payroll to meet, and we knew the money was running out. There was a Friday that we like payroll had hit like next week, and there was like $500 in the bank account, and it was like nothing, and we were like, what are we gonna do? So we were able to get a bank loan, and we were like a couple years out of college at that point, we got a personal bank loan for $1 million.
Bro, talk about responsibility, bro.
Personal loan, right? So we were just a couple years out of college at that point, and we're like, we have to do this so that way we don't lay anybody off, and we weren't going to take any paychecks. So just when we started getting a paycheck, gone again, but we were able to not miss a single payroll, and we were able to get that bank loan. But then we had to replace all this business, but we had just finished up that Spider-Man game, and for Activision, and they were pretty happy, and we're like, all right, we gotta do more stuff with Activision. And Neversoft and Activision had that prior year released Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and actually Pro Skater 2 came out in 2000, and they had, or was coming out. Now that I'm remembering timing, they were working on Pro Skater 2. Pro Skater had come out, so that was like the crown jewels. And we're like, we gotta work on Tony Hawk. This is gonna like help save the company, and
Classic.
and so this was E3 of 2000. So we just finished up Spidey, and we're like, this new machine's coming out, the Game Boy Advance. We're like, let's go get a deal to make Tony Hawk on the Game Boy Advance for the launch of the Game Boy Advance. Sounds awesome, and let's go pitch it. So we were at E3. It's another trade show story for you about like scrappiness as entrepreneurs. We're at E3, and my brother Guha spots Tony Hawk at the booth, at Activision's booth.
Oh.
And we're like, this is it. This is what we got to do. So I had called up the team back home. And I said, I need you to fake up some screenshots of what this game could look like on the Game Boy Advance, and FedEx it to me overnight. Print it out and FedEx
You
it to
the
me
king
overnight.
of finesse.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, you be
You've been
making it happen. I'm
finessing,
talking about
yo.
he
You
be
the king
making
of
it
finesse
happen.
right now.
Okay, everybody out there, this is called
You gotta
making
work
it
it,
happen.
Facts.
Work it. So we had this idea for like, okay, of like this isometric, play the old 720 skate game, and we're like, the Game Boy Advance is a 2D machine. We could probably do this, and so we created these fake screenshots of what we thought it could look like based on what we knew of the hardware, and I had the printout, the color printout. I got the color printout. I found it. I was going through my files and I actually found it for the show to show it to you.
Yo, what?
But this is the actual printout from 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, right? So this is what it looked like. I don't know how well you can see it, but you can kind of see like the old warehouse level.
Yeah. I see the drops. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right? So this was the actual printout. And we went to the booth and I showed it to Tony Hawk. And the other Activision folks that were there. And I said, this is what Tony Hawk could be on the new Game Boy Advance. Of course, nobody had seen what the Game Boy Advance could do because hadn't come out yet. And by the end of the show, I had a handshake deal to do the project. And remember, we were like,
you got the hustle factor.
Loan, right? We had the bank loan on us, and like, we gotta keep the studio open, and we gotta go get some projects, and so we had a handshake deal for it. Came back, and the programmers were like, I got some bad news for you. We can't make this game. I'm like, what do you mean we can't make this game?
Right.
I think we just got the gig to do this thing. And they're like, well, here's the problem. The machine is a 2D machine, and if we render out all of the angles and the animations of the skater, then it's not going to fit on the cartridge. All the frames of animation rendered out won't fit on the cartridge.
How many gigs was that back then? Like how many? You know how like games be taking up your hard drive now? How many gigs was that back then?
That wasn't a gig. That was.
Megabytes.
It wasn't even gig.
Yeah, that was. Word. That was like gigs, man.
The whole cartridge, 8 megabytes.
Yeah.
You can't even put words on that. 8 megabytes with the whole cartridge space on it. Anyway, uh, we're like, we got to figure this out. This is do or die time.
Right.
So the team actually figured out how to do 3D on the Game Boy Advance and how to do the skater in 3D. And we built that prototype, and it blew people's minds. And we made it for the launch of Game Boy Advance. It was our first, million unit plus seller, and we paid off the bank loan and all of that the following year. And we things continued, and we started working, more on Tony Hawk and these handheld projects, and made lots of games. Doom 3 on the Xbox, and working alongside it, and Jedi Knight. I mean, lots of games, and as partnerships, and then became part of Activision in 2005. So,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, like we were like indies before that term was even there, I guess, before it was even cool, and then we were able to be part of a big company like Activision, which is much bigger now, but that allowed us to work on some really cool big things like Guitar Hero and then Skylanders. So anyway, lots of history there. I could go on for a long time, but I thought I'd share the early day stories from an entrepreneurship standpoint.
We love that. That's what this is
Yeah.
about. And a lot of our people, our audience, we see you guys. I see Mark Ramsey, Rambo, David Martinez on LinkedIn, and Mark Ramsey said this story has been a wild ride. This has been a wild ride for sure. It's incredible. It's definitely incredible.
Yeah.
So can you share the index card? And I know that we're getting putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but when we get to the
Yeah, this is crazy.
you got to share the card.
Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of, I'll spin forward a bit, but like, obviously, there's a lot of games that we worked on. Some games that were not so good, some games that were great and nobody played, and games that were great and everybody played. So that it was a great experience. Um, but after 25 years, in 2016, my brother and I left Vicarious, and a lot because we did what we set out to do, and we built a great team, and it was time to kind of hand over the keys and get them going. So like the last project that we kicked off was right before I left was just the starting points for the Crash Bandicoot reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I did a great job on it. Insane
Incredible.
shit like that.
Incredible.
The VV team did amazing, and it was that was the last thing to just sort of spin up right before we left, and that was great, because it worked on Crash back in the day, and that was such a fun IP to work on. I see, Marcus, you're wearing the Crash shirt, and yeah, it was those are good times working on Crash Nitro Kart and then the GBA games and stuff, and it was great to
Dude,
for
Nitro
the
Kart's
team, and
classic.
actually some of the team members who worked on Crash back then, worked on the Insane trilogy as well, and it was a great tribute to Naughty Dog and the original creators. And but for me and my brother, we wanted some new challenges. We wanted to think about, well, what are we going to do that's different. It wasn't about creating doing what we did before. Otherwise, we would have just stayed. And we left because things were going so well. It was like, I don't think we're needed anymore.
That's
You know,
a good
and,
note to leave off of. A lot of people can't say that.
It's really proud of what we did, and it's a team effort, and it's very, very capable folks there, and I can't say enough good things. But it was important, and it was hard. It was hard to let go and sort of leave the people, and at that point it was 25 years from when we were kids, and letting go of something that was very much part of your identity. Really hard. But that was necessary for the two of us, for us to be able to think differently and try something new. And so,
Let me ask you, back then, when you were building a team, was diversity on your mind while building a team?
originally with VV,
Yes.
you know, it not explicitly like that, to be honest with you. At the beginning, we were just trying to figure out how to make games, and so the way we thought about diversity was very different. It was about bringing in people with capabilities, skills, and a thought process that was different than our own, because together we were going to figure out, how to do this. And and that and for a while, like we couldn't. This is the funny thing. We couldn't attract any talent, right? Like where we were in upstate New York, now there's a gaming cluster that's vibrant and growing. Back then there wasn't. So we couldn't attract talent to the area. In fact, my brother got on a plane, he went to Russia and he went to China and he recruited people from there. And we did all the immigration paperwork ourselves and we brought people from all over, told them you're coming to New York. And didn't tell them it was upstate.
Oh, they thought they was coming to the city. Oh, that's two different beasts.
But we were able to attract talent, good talent from all over because we couldn't get them here. So in a weird kind of way, we were able to get some level of diversity, different perspective and different thinking. But it was like at the beginning, it was just, how can we make these games? But then that thinking matured where it was like, wait a second, good games come from good people. Great games come from great people, and if we can focus on the people side of it, and that's really the business that we're in, if we can really nurture and develop that talent, the games are kind of a byproduct of that, and so you kind of focus on the people and building a great culture and that sort of thing.
So outside of the skills of being a developer or on a game development team, what professional skills makes one successful in that space that you could pass on as gems to those that are watching?
So much of it is like respect, not just respecting each other, but respecting our player community and the viewpoints that are there, being really kind of, open-minded, knowing that, you have a voice and seat at the table, but but there's lots of different points of view. And you've got to try and figure out how to integrate that. That doesn't necessarily mean design by committee. You have roles to play, within this company and the project. But but that respect and responsibility is a core thing, and like that core set of values, that come along with that. And so this is where the start of Velan Studios is very different than the start of EV. Because in the start of EV, look, at 15, my brother was 14, and we're like, we want to make video games. We're really excited about that. And of course, we're still just as excited about making video games. But the start of Velan Studios, we had no idea what we wanted to make. In fact, we didn't have an idea for a video game. That wasn't the point. The approach that we took was we were going to focus on the culture and the kind of people that we were going to bring. And of course, diversity and divergent thinking was like central to the kind of team that we wanted to build. And people who are just naturally curious and just curious about the world and, and that kind of thing. We got rid of things like requiring a college education from our job requirement.
That's early.
4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah. It was like, you know what? That's actually not as important as we think. Sure, it'd be great, but it's really, how do you think about things? Are you really good at problem solving? How do you go about doing that? Are the values aligned? What are some of the core skills? Show me what you got. You built some demos and things like that on your own time.
Best thing.
That's it. And so we made some purposeful choices there, and and then we took a very different approach to our business plan, and how we were going to essentially structure and sort of pitch the company. So Marcus asked about the index card. So I'll show you the business plan. This is the entirety of the business plan. This is the thing that we wrote. This is the whole thing, soup to nuts, on how we were going to operate as a studio. So I'll read it to you. So Velan Studios business plan, October 2016. Step number 1, build an awesome team. Just like that. Harder than you think, right?
Great step, right? I was going to say, big step.
Build an awesome team. But it's build an awesome team. Step number 2, find the magic in something new that the team is really passionate about. So there's a lot to unpack there, but it sounds really obvious, but we're actually going to do something new, and to do something new is a really high bar, and that's the only rule. You can't be derivative. So if the pitch starts out like it's a first-person shooter like Call of Duty, but it's this meets that, no, let's start again. That's not how we're gonna think about it, because there's a number of reasons why. One, what we were excited about was not to work on franchises that are established or play patterns that are established, but what can we do where we can make a contribution to the industry, to gaming, that's unique, that hopefully, if we're successful, will be remembered for ages, and what can we do that's something new, and if we fail at it, fine, no big deal, because the success or failure is just an outcome from that pursuit. So so that was a really high bar, but there's a strategic reason for going after something new as well, from a competitive strategy, because there's no way we're gonna outdo Call of Duty. They're best in the world at doing what they do, and I would have just stayed at Activision. And but we were going to do something new that other people are not doing, and the late Mr. Wada had professed this book, The Blue Ocean Strategy, fantastic book, and it talks about just going after those blue oceans, because where there's a lot of competition, the oceans are red, with blood,
right?
And you want to go after those fresh oceans, that's uncharted. And if we're successful at creating something new, gamers out there will judge us based on how successful we were at doing that. Quality will be based on that, right? And so if we're trying to, if we say, hey, we're going to do something like The Last of Us or something, we'd have to compete with Naughty Dog, and we would have to have a really large team, huge AAA budgets and all that stuff. So how do you do it as a scrappy indie? You got to do something different, right? You got to do something unique. You got to do something that other people are not doing, so you don't get judged by that, as a quality measure. And you can actually kind of carve out your own little niche. So the step 2 is a hard step, and finding the magic in something new. And the team's got to be super passionate about it. If the team's not into it, we're not going to create the best work. And there's no point putting your life and time into it. So then when we find that magic, and this is the other counterintuitive thing, step 3 was, once you find the magic, figure out the go-to-market strategy and who the right business partners could be. This is not what most companies do. Most companies identify a market segment first.
Right.
Hey, the new hotness.
Right.
Yeah.
The new hotness.
The ARR, we're going to, NFTs are the thing, so we're going to go build something there.
Mm-hmm.
They define the market opportunity and say, this is the size of the market, and if we can get this many people out of this big market.
You're dropping gems on y'all now.
And at least from our point of view, and look, I'm not saying that other people are wrong when they do that. It was just not the way we were going to do it. And it just seems a little backwards because you could do that and then you can figure out what product you're going to make for that market. But if you're really trying to do something divergent and new, go figure that out, something that the team is really passionate about. Then build a business plan around that. Then figure out that go to market.
Love that.
And then because the partners might be different, the business plan, the business model might be different, the kind of people that you need might be different based on that magic that you find. And then the last step is you build it, you ship it, and you evolve it with the player community. Listen to your customers and and evolve it with the game community. And that's all we wrote. And we said that is our plan, and
That
we're
is
going to stick to
incredible.
that plan. And so we started building an awesome team, and we found the magic as we were experimenting in two very different things. This crazy mixed reality idea that needed us to design our own hardware as part of it, and then this seemingly simple idea of throwing and catching a ball. And it turns out throwing and catching a ball over the internet is a problem that hadn't really been solved before, and that is like really, really hard. And both things were really hard. But
Karthik, I think you may be selling your team a bit short there when you say this XR idea. Can you share with the audience what game that is?
yeah, so that turned into a little project called Mario Kart Live. That was our first game that we shipped
Boy,
last holiday.
that game goes
It-
crazy. That game goes crazy. I have a little cousin who's nuts. Like my aunt had to take it from him. Like had
I
to
got
like.
it right.
There it is. There it is.
No, but it became a especially it came out during the right time, like in a most unfortunate time, but came out during the right time because RC car it's kind of hard to maneuver, and then you throw in Mario Kart, and like I got a chance to hear your story on it, and I was like, wow, y'all took a big risk, but when y'all took the risk, y'all had something to actually show.
Yeah, it's the team was really into it. They were into drones and like RC cars and RC cars are like can be really hard to drive, and we came at it as game developers. So well, what if an RC car could drive like a video game car, and have it be really intuitive and easy to drive, where the software can kind of assist and like sense what you're trying to do, and actually compensate and actually handle the steering and have it auto trim and keep it going straight and understand what surfaces it's on and all this stuff. So it was a project that evolved, but it was a prototype that we built, and we said, what? There's only one company, one partner we can think of could be crazy enough to help us with this. And so we built the first prototype and got on a plane to Japan. And we're like, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's try and show folks over there what we built. And they liked it. And the first prototype that we built, we just a reference hardware that we just kind of scrappily put together, and we took it to them. It wasn't even digital video. It was actually like an RF video. It looked like old VHS, but it was like low enough latency to kind of prove it out, and it felt good to drive. Like, again, the play feel of it. We're all about the play feel in our studio, and it's a small core team, around 8 people that worked on, less than that maybe even on that first prototype. But we had something there, and but one of the comments that came back is like, well, you need to figure out how to do digital video with like encoding and decoding in real time. No loading, no buffering, none of that. And otherwise you're going to crash the car. And we're like, yeah, we know. That's a hard problem. And, real-time encoding and decoding, and then computer vision and all that kind of stuff. We had to do all of that stuff from scratch. And so we went off, and I think it was over Christmas or something, over a few weeks. A couple of our engineers came back and saying, "I think we figured it out," and we're like, "All right, let's put this next prototype together." Then we went back to Japan and we showed it to them, and they're like, "Wow, this works." I said, "Yeah, can we make this?" Like, "Yeah, let's make it." So so yeah, it was a great partnership with Nintendo, and it was a great way to kind of do something new because again, what was new about that is a mixed reality experience. It's not a
Yeah.
wearable. It's not phone-based AR. It's this third paradigm where we've got a remote AR camera that's Wi-Fi connected, and with doing all the computer vision, it's a completely different paradigm in mixed reality that nobody else is doing. And we're not a multi-billion-dollar company working on glasses. We're not going to go after that. But we were going to create like a really rich experience that's relatively inexpensive, for consumers. And it's a mini computer on wheels on that thing that was built. It's a mini console on wheels.
I
Pretty
think
wild.
more adults bought this. I mean, I got it myself, but like I think more adults bought this because it was like coined the best toy of the year. I was like, more. I know I could. As soon as I seen it at the direct, I was like, yo, it's something that is growing up as a kid playing Mario Kart.
Right.
Would have had love to play in real life, besides doing go-karts or whatever you in real life, but in your own home. And then we see all the videos with cats playing around with the cart. And I just thought it came out during the most perfect time to kind of take our minds off of the craziness that's happening now and kind of enjoy ourselves within our own homes, but having that type of mixed reality with gaming and real life. I just thought it was genius.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun. My brother got a text from some friends, where like extended family are there, living together, and they said, "Look, 3 generations, of family are playing together,
That's
with
dope.
this game,
So dope.
and like, and people who've never picked up a video game before, are playing and they're enamored by it, and that was really heartwarming. But yeah, it was definitely something new because the team was super passionate about it, and it was a small team, and with the partnership with Nintendo, we were able to bring that to market, and then we had Knockout City, and Knockout City was a prototype that it took 18 months to figure it out. There was a lot of failures along the way, to figure out just the core experience, and that core experience was barely working in a LAN setup, and but you were able to feel it and play it, and it felt fresh and different, and that was a process where we actually every 3 months or so we had a prototype of it that we put it in the hands of peers in the industry, people that we really trust and value their opinion. And every time we thought we had it figured out, nope. It was a dog. It didn't work. There was like a lot of problems with it. We had to go back to the drawing board. And every time we thought we had it, we didn't have it. And this is always a tough situation because we were like 3 or 4 attempts at this, and it didn't work. So we were a year into it, and the team had really grown. And you don't know if there's like a there sometimes when you're working on something unique. But our lead said, and our game director Jeremy's like, I think I know what we did wrong. And this was like our 4th attempt, and we're like a year into it, and we're like, should we just go work on something else and just like call it a day, because it's like maybe there's no solution. Maybe there's a reason why this has never been invented before, because it doesn't work, and it's not fun. And he's like, no, I think I know what we need to do. I'm like, okay, Jeremy, trust the team. The team still wanted to keep going, and we're like, okay, let's keep going. And so gave him another 6 months, and we took it to E3 behind closed doors, and we rented a hotel room at the Hotel Fig, which is just, we were lucky because it was a hotel that was not a very good hotel back in the day, but they had renovated it and
Mm-hmm.
it was swank, and nobody knew that it was renovated and open, so they were actually like available. So we got
Mm-hmm.
the penthouse, suite for a pretty good deal, and we basically invited all of the different publishers and stuff to come and check it out. EA was actually our second meeting, and everybody loved it, and we were like, it's one of those hold your breath moments, because you're working on it for so long, you don't know whether it's going to work or not. But everybody loved it, and then so pretty soon there were multiple companies wanting to be our partner, on this project, and with EA Originals, we felt it was an awesome fit because we would, it's Velan Studios IP. They're like, look, you guys figured it out, and it's really fun, and we have total creative control over it, which is what the team needed to have, and it's their baby. And the EA Originals team, super cool. They're really supportive, wanted to make it happen, and we said, hey, we built this prototype. It barely works in a LAN experience. We've got to scale this to a online, competitive online game, and we need to basically build an engine from scratch to make this work. And huge technological challenges, and it was like a hold your breath kind of thing. And they're like, okay, we trust you to do that and figure it out. I mean, we had to develop our own programming language to build this game on that didn't exist, and it's the only way to kind of make this thing work. So huge challenges on this project, even after we found the magic, and what made it work. So we had to throw away 18 months of work and start over.
Mm.
And but like now we knew what game we were trying to make, and so this kind of agility as a small indie studio, it's hard to have that kind of agility when you're part of
Bigger.
major, and it's like you've
Right.
got team members, you got to keep everybody going, and so it's but if you're trying to do something completely different, being agile and small and having a really scrappy and smart team, I feel really fortunate we were able to do it. But this is one of those games where we've been 4 years in development, and if we knew it was going to take 4 years, we probably wouldn't have done it. But like, you
Hmm.
just don't know, right? When you get into it, you don't know how long and how hard you got to work to figure it out. But it was like these amazingly interesting series of like highly improbable events that just played out, and that got us to this point. But yeah, we're really we're really happy with the game. But it's amazing how you kind of have to go back to your old lessons as entrepreneurs on like. It's funny you brought up the whole trade show thing because I didn't even connect the dots until now. Because it's like when you're back in business as an indie, and you're out there hitting the pavement, it's back to those old lessons that you learn,
Right.
being really scrappy, and even after all these years, right? Even after all the games that we made, and some of these games have been really successful. You're only as good as your last game, and so you got to keep earning it every time, and so got to stay scrappy.
Question:
Yeah.
at what point did the industry start feeling like you were in $100 billion industry versus a starving artist?
Yeah, I think it's it's all relative. It's like when it started out, some of these games, I early '90s, these some of the big blockbuster games, they would spend a few $100,000 in their budgets, and then like all of a sudden, the budget started growing. Like CD-ROM days, I remember like I think Wing Commander 4 was like this astronomical $12 million budget, which was unheard of at the time, and so the amount of money being put into these games, these blockbuster type budgets started going up, and you're like, wow, the industry's growing up. It's not these small teams anymore. So like during the '90s, I think after Doom came out, Doom and Quake, and all of a sudden, like the birth of 3D games, they started getting big. I think that's when you start seeing that shift. And I don't know if we could have dreamt of it being as big as it is today, because we were always, it always felt like the game industry is much smaller, like than movies, and TV and all that kind of stuff, right? And like back in the day when we worked on, licensed IPs from like Pixar and Disney and Marvel and others, it always felt like the games were like the little brother or sister, of movies. But now it's just like way bigger. And I remember a few years back, I watched an interview with Ed Catmull, who's co-founder of Pixar, and he made this offhand comment about Pixar making animated feature films, and he made a comment about games, and he's like, "Oh yeah, and the game industry is just much bigger than the film industry." And I'm like, "Is that Catmull saying that?" And at that point, it was like this light bulb went off in my head, saying, "Oh my gosh, the industry's arrived,"
Right.
and there's no stopping it, and it's going to grow in so many different ways. And the thing that I observed, like again, another actually impetus for leaving and starting over about 5 years ago, was that if you look back at the industry from like the NES to the Super Nintendo, and like you went from 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, and all that, it was all about the horsepower, the power of consoles getting better. It was all about consoles, and PC gaming had its growth. But like now, and after like mobile, now it's like technology and gaming is exploding in every direction, right? It's like the Big Bang. That's what I said. Like it's this new Big Bang that's happened. Whether it's like AR, VR, yes, blockchain definitely has a role, but all the AI stuff and machine learning,
Right.
all of these different technology sectors have ties into gaming. And so innovation in gaming is exploding in every direction. So it's not this sort of linear growth, where it's just better graphics and, more powerful console. That's still happening. But then there's innovation happening in all these different ways, and that's all contributing to growth. And so many more people are playing games now, right? And so that's driving a lot more diversity, in the player base, which the industry's now, it's going to take a while, but a lot of effort being pushed towards driving diversity in the talent as well, and I'm seeing much more of that. We're nowhere near where we need to be, and we gotta make that continue to make that a priority. But that's another big opportunity, and we're certainly doing that with Knockout City to be able to appeal to a much more diverse audience, because the audience is there.
Can you do a deep dive for the audience here? And speaking really to the global gaming and esports industry, or the gaming industry and the esports market, because it's 200 billion versus a billion. You talk about that moment when you had someone send you a photo of 3 generations playing your first game. And then that reminded me of the Entertainment Software Association's 2020 like essential facts report. If you go down like the outline that talks about different sections, it talks about like families gaming, and then it talks about the gaming ecosystem from like 18 to 34, 35 to 45, and like 55 to 60, 70 plus. And then nowhere in that document does it mention esports. So what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks is like the bigger opportunity for esports is to be more diverse and more inclusive, because you've got, again, $1 billion versus a $200 billion industry. Talk about how that philosophy kind of shapes your strategy for Knockout City and the global perspective. Again, we talked about, the African region and obviously Peru and Chile, different areas that aren't being represented in the industry. Just if you could speak to the industry.
So think about it this way, right? You look at the overall industry growth and the type of games that are out there. Really broad appeal, lots of different genres, lots of different sort of subject matter, and content and play styles. there's there's appeal for everybody, and as the industry's grown over the last 40 years or so, you know, gamers who started out playing Pac-Man, they're still gaming, much older,
Right.
and they're still gaming, right? And we've got content that appeals to that wide demographic. When you look at esports relative to the content diversity that's there and the appeal of broader gaming, the content diversity of esports is still relatively narrow, and it's still pretty core, for the most part, and that's the opportunity. So when I think back to sort of online gaming when I played the original Doom over IPX and modems, and then Quake came out, and it was a super core community playing online games, and most of it was offline. Most games were just completely offline, and it was this uh, core genres, the shooters, primarily the shooters and stuff. And you got shooters and MOBAs and stuff, and you can just go on Twitch and you can see the games that are the top streamed games, and then the games that are the, uh, the main gravity wells for esports. They're pretty core, but now you're starting to see some breakthroughs of different games that go wider, and we saw this. I actually it was For me, it was actually Rocket League that was the
Mm.
eye-opening moment for me, and I have great admiration for Psyonix and what they did as an indie studio, and smartly built their business and smartly curated and managed their IP, and said, you know what, the potential is much broader. There's lots of different kinds of experiences that can appeal. You don't have to compromise the competitive edge of a game and appeal to the core gamer,
Oh, I love
but still
that.
make it accessible.
I love that because that's what I think is I think that's what kind of has been the narrow mind state is like you make the most popular game and turn that to an esport instead of something like that's the first thing that I noticed when I played Knockout City was that I found myself being competitive in 3 minutes. 3 minutes flat. I was like, all right, like, it looks good. It gives me a real jet set radio feel, which I like, right? So now I'm playing it and I just love that feeling. But then, like, Marcus hit me with the ball. And I was like, I'm going to tear you up. As soon as I recover, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. And the beauty is, I said kill because that's kind of like the nature of the games that are currently popular, right? I come from the fighting game community, so Mortal Kombat, kill is kind of the thing, right? But like it's kind of part of the program. But
Do you know why you have that reaction?
why?
Because throwing and catching a ball is arguably mankind's first ever multiplayer game.
Mm, it's
And
Pretty
true.
much.
It's true. It's
we're
true.
whacking each other with
Because
clubs,
I felt it.
killing each other, and then you're like throwing and catching a ball and creating a friendship. Then you get whacked with a ball in the face. Anybody who's gotten like hit with a ball, your
Yo,
immediate reaction is
that
get right
dodgeball
back.
ball stings, okay? It
It's true.
stings.
That that sound of a dodgeball, everybody knows it.
Yes.
But
It's true.
but
It's true.
yeah, the competitive, the opportunity. I guess the way we saw it was the opportunity was, we can appeal to the core and not compromise that core competitive play, have an extremely high skill ceiling to the game, but still make it super accessible and inviting to play. So you've got like
Okay.
a game that is it's really intense. The matches get really, really intense and it appeals to the core, but like we're purposely not taking it seriously in terms of the visual style and
Right.
fun, the joyful competition that we have, around it, because that's the way we make it sort of disarming and not intimidating for somebody to try it out if they're not a competitive, player. And you got to make it intuitive from a controls and accessibility. It's very much a Nintendo philosophy of game design, and
And
making it
first.
intuitive to play. But we want like casual players to have fun with it and not feel beaten down by it, and so that they're having a good time, and then see that they can progress and get better. And when you see expert players play, and you really see how teams cooperate and work well as a team in Knockout City, it it looks like a totally different game when you have expert teams going up against each other, because the mind games like a fighting game. It's
Yeah.
like the mind games and all those sorts of tricks. But as a new player getting into it, it's not like the expert players have any like new ability,
Advantage.
right? There's no pay to win. There's no loadouts or character classes or heroes, things that you buy that makes you better. It's purely your skill, and they have the exact same controls and abilities as you do, which says, hey, I might be able to do that. If I put my time into it and get better, which is the quality of any sport, right? And you put your time into it and you practice, and it's that path to mastery. So from a diversity and the going back to your original question, games don't have to compromise the competitive esport nature of it, to be able to go wider in terms of appeal and making it accessible for anybody to kind of get into. But the other dimension of it is the inclusiveness, and diversity. And, on a personal level, one of the things that always sort of bothered me for a long time was like not feeling personally represented in a lot of the games that I play, right? Like, why can't I find somebody like me, in the games? And and so that always bothered me for a long time. And some games do a great job of that, and but there's a lot more that can be done, And so for Knockout City, that was a explicit goal, for us to try and show that diversity. And there's right now what we have in the game is like two different body types, but you can mix and match, anything, from an outfit and styles and hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I
And
love
there's a
that.
lot of
Yeah,
variety in the avatar
a lot of
system.
variety right now.
Yeah, and we when we were like taking a look at sort of the fashion design and look, I mean, Knockout City has its own sort of distinctive art style and rules to it. But we went really broad, in terms of cultural diversity, for influence, for fashion.
I was
And
impressed.
yeah, and like we're like, how do you take those ideas, from lots of different cultures, and weave that into, well, how would that be in Knockout City? That was kind of the lens that we looked at it at. And what we're realizing was, and that was just more of an instinctively, it feels like the right thing to do if we're going to try and make it appeal. But the response from the betas has been actually really great, because people are finding, and they haven't, we most of the content was still locked in the beta, so we're really excited to go broad with this. And then as a live service game, we can keep widening it, and
Yeah.
look for opportunities. So by making the
I love
control,
the hairstyles alone. I was like, gosh, even a game with this art style can still get like a curly hair texture. You know what I'm saying? From
Right.
like a lot of games, it's even like 3D photorealistic, always make some type of excuse with that. And I'm like, so you can't get my curls in this game? That's what you're saying? But this game over here, which has less polygons, can do it. Like, so I was like, yo, I love that. I can't wait to see more too, as far as like the reception from the community. I love that y'all been listening to the community.
yeah, it's the Discord is amazing, and if folks watching want to get participate, really act. The Discord is very active, for Knockout City. We're listening to the feedback, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot more. But that's the step four of the business plan, evolving it with the player community. And so the game will be in the hands of the community, and we have our own ideas on what we want to do to evolve it. but so much of it is going to be driven, by that feedback and that conversation, with the community, and that was fundamental to our plan, as a studio. But there's no real long answer. Sorry, Marcus, to your question. But like these are the ways that I think sort of esports, where it's $1 billion, that means $1 billion. But like that's how it's going to really grow. And we've also got a game that it's it's not, it doesn't have guns. The world of Knockout City doesn't have guns, and there's an opportunity where it can be broadcasted in lots of venues that
Yeah.
other games may not
Games
have the
can't.
opportunity. Yeah, and so as it gets wider, it's also kind of game that you can watch without knowing all of the rules
It
and have a
is.
good time, right? And it's like watching basketball, and
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
well, you
Yeah.
gotta know.
It's
The
got
one
that.
thing.
It's got that vibe. Karthik, I am so grateful you came through today. I want to give everybody a chance to ask you one personal question. I have too many people. Well, first of all, I have a guest who wanted to ask a question. They wanted advice on what you would say to somebody who wanted to develop games but needs to get their foot in the door. What would be your number one piece of advice to them? Then I'm gonna ask my question. That's not my question. I want to make sure. Okay.
All right. Just to be clear, that was not your question.
That was not my question. Okay, cool. Good. We're good. We're good.
The number one piece of advice I can give is work on a demo, work on something that shows your sort of creativity and what you're capable of, and learn. There's so many resources online. You can go download Unity, you can download Unreal, you can do mods for existing games out there. You can join up with other people online, and work on something. But you know show what you got, and it's like, and like learn, and there's like no substitute to that, at all. And I think you know putting your work out there. We look at stuff all day long, and people put out, like, if you're an artist just making art, and you put it up on ArtStation or other places, get feedback, and if you can make a demo with a few people, put that out there, and get feedback, and and apply, and you're gonna get a lot of no's, but that's okay, because eventually there'll be a yes, and you just got to stick with it. And then when you're in, you soak it in like a sponge,
That's right.
from everybody around you. And my overall, like, philosophy in life is, like, surround yourself with people who are better than you. And I'm really lucky to have a studio of people who are, like, just better than me in, like, almost every way. And so that's how we're gonna all be successful. And so it's kind of a philosophy.
Well, Key, Aaron, I hope you got that, because you were asking that earlier, and I told you I was going to ask them, so I got you that answer. I dug that out for you. Now, two, all right? My question.
Your question, Aaron.
My question, all right? Now, I have a lot of people from the fighting game community supporting. We're up at like 50 people watching now between Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I know they're going to expect me to represent. Do you play fighting games? And if you have ever played a fighting game, out of all the ones that you've played, what is your favorite fighting game?
So I have played fighting games. I do. I like brawlers as well. I'm really partial to, like, 90s coin op, so Street Fighter 2 and stuff in the arcades.
Okay.
And Ninja Turtles, and a lot of those brawlers. That's what I love.
Turtles in Time?
What's that?
Turtles in Time?
Oh, Turtles in Time, absolutely.
Okay.
And really looking forward to the new one that's coming out.
Yes,
But,
I cannot wait.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those games, but I absolutely get demolished by players in our studio. And Jeremy, our game director, he is a god with Smash Brothers.
Oh,
And,
yeah, Smash.
and Merc who is one of our designers in the studio. He is by far the best Knockout City, player in the studio. He is
Uh-oh.
just unreal. He is just absolutely unreal. But he is, I don't know what he plays, but his like knowledge of fighting games and the amount of time that he's got into various fighting games is just staggering. So like, I can't even compete. I'm like not even. I'm just so casual about it.
Right.
But that's actually kind of cool because we've got these hardcore fighting game players in the studio, and then we've got awful players like me, and I just want to have a good time.
Who do you use in Smash?
You know what? I'm partial not for the characters and powers and stuff, but from a character standpoint,
That's how you play
with,
Smash.
like,
Right, that's how you play
it's-
Smash.
Yeah, it's like so like DK is like my favorite Nintendo character
Okay.
of all time.
Okay.
So I'm partial, but yeah, we got that diversity because Knockout City is more of a fighting game than it is a shooter or any other kind of genre. It's like a real genre bender. That's why we call it a dodge brawler. It's third person and it's got the movement and controls like a third person action game or shooter. But it's not about position and aiming. That's what shooters are about. This is about position and timing.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
It's all about fighting games.
It
right?
is.
Like you said, Karthik, I talked to Sebastian about this game for 2 or 3 days, and it wasn't until I said it played like a fighter that he agreed that he would download it.
Absolutely a fact.
Wow.
Like absolutely a fact. That is a fact.
At least
He
you
was.
keep it at 100.
It's all. That's the 100. He was like no, it plays like a fighter because you got to psych him out. And I was like, all right, let me get into this. And I got in.
And you got a psycho. You got to
It was
like.
exactly that, right? Like the ball tracks, but it's about faking them out or setting them
Yep,
up or bringing
fake.
your man in to be like, more strategic, like
Yep.
flank them. Oh,
It's fire.
crazy.
It is fire.
It was crazy. I had I was just so surprised. I was so surprised because I told you, Karthik, I only got in at Old Chosen. I got in at. It ended at 6:00 on a Sunday. I got in at 5:51. I got in at 5:51, so I had 9 minutes.
Ridiculous, man.
For the first 3 of them, I felt that casual wave. I was just stunned. I love the menu. I love the brother in the menu. Whoever that dude is, he needs a voice acting award. He had me like in that 2 minutes. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
yo,
I love the voice acting.
I can't
too,
wait to
like,
play this.
for
I was
each
like, oh,
character.
this is cool. And all just the Jet Set Radio vibes going through the menu. And even though stuff was locked scene, you could change everything. I was like, all right, that's cool. Then it was easy to set a matchup. And once we got in there, Marcus had been playing from moment 1 of the demo. So he destroyed me and Rich. Shout out to Rich, our producer. He destroyed me and Rich. But we had a blast. It was us 2 versus him. And he beat the crap out of us. But we had a blast.
He
and
cheated.
it was like
Yeah.
a fighting game. It's very strategic. It's very easy. It's easy, but it's very simple.
Harder to master.
But it's not easy. It's like
Yeah.
it's very simple. You start throwing it, you're like, he's catching everything I'm throwing, and then you learn. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I loved it. I had a blast, and yeah, I'm really excited. Someone in our audience wants you to say you love Tekken 7. So he's just pushing for that. I just can tell you, my chat is filling with tell him Tekken 7,
Yeah.
Tekken 7.
I got Tekken from like PlayStation. I think Tekken was one of the first games I got on my PlayStation 1.
Me too.
And and so yeah, it's Soul Calibur on Dreamcast was like the first game I bought on Dreamcast.
Classic.
What's up?
classic
So
stuff.
fighters, I looked out. There he goes. Hey, Tekken. Okay, I got it. I looked out. I got him to say it. All right, I got him to say it. What about
So-
you guys? Any questions you want to ask?
Yeah, I have a question. Since we're talking about all these different games, I have a question. I asked a lot of developers this because, of course, a lot of developers are gamers, so they played a lot of different games that are their faves. What character would you have as a guest character in Knockout City to kind of go with the flow or to make it different? Like, I would have never expect this character to be in this type of game, but is a favorite of yours.
Red's the interviewer of our group, Karthik. So you're gonna get those kind of questions. I
I mean, I'm
prepared you. Should have prepared you.
We got another exclusive for the Eat for Life podcast.
Mm-hmm. Let me hit
So,
that old
Yeah, I mean,
ching.
we're not even there like as a studio yet, right? But like, what would I like to?
Yeah, who would you like? Like, you know what, this character would fit, or it would be very wonky, but it will work.
It's
Throwing the dodgeball right in your face, like.
Someone said that's a spicy question, Red. Spicy question.
There's a lot of different things I can I can think of.
Well, we
It's
listening.
certainly look. I mean, certainly, the way the characters are done. It would be pretty awesome to take um, whether it's like Nintendo characters going back to Donkey Kong, but like cosplaying as those characters. So
Yeah, that
you're
would be dope.
Rockstar, but like with cosplay,
Oh,
outfits.
that's
I think
fire.
that would be pretty rad. Where we can just go. It would be very Knockout City, to have a bunch of cosplayer brawlers, coming in,
That
with
would be
those
cool.
sort of
That's
character
pretty sick.
outfits and stuff. But like, you know, for me, I'm like, you know what I want? I want like the Miami Vice outfits, and like,
Oh,
kind of like I'm like a big '80s, guy. So
okay.
I think it'd be pretty sweet to come in
That'd
with
be a
that,
dope theme.
or like one thing I wanted. Oh, these are two outfits I was really pushing for, right? And this would be like, we're really successful. I want to go back to it. Bruce Lee's yellow jumpsuit and bringing in Bruce Lee
Oh,
into that,
Oh,
and bringing that yellow jumpsuit, and Michael Jackson's Thriller outfit.
oh.
oh, yeah. I mean, you already
I
almost
mean,
have one of those as the jackets too, like a little bit almost.
That may or may not be a coincidence.
Ah, I noticed that one
gems,
No,
gems.
there's some great
because I
stuff.
made my jacket red, so that's why I was like, wait a
With all
minute,
the zippers, with all the zippers,
all the zippers.
all the
Yeah,
zippers.
so we could certainly go down the route of characters and stuff, but there's just so much cool stuff that we could do, with fashion and outfits and stuff, and and go retro. I mean,
80s
that was kind
theme.
of yeah, that was the kind of point, to go to almost anything goes. It's Knockout City, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Take them to there, man. Yes, it's Knockout City, May 21st. I already was hyped, but now you're turning me into Marcus. My picture, I might just turn into Marcus. Marcus, I know
I'm
you
sorry,
got
I
a
had to pull the
question,
plug. I didn't know you had like 10 minutes. There were so many people playing that Sunday night.
dude.
And
It was nuts.
I
It
had to
was
pull the
nuts.
plug. It was not our plan. We did all the studies and modeling, and we figured, okay, things are going to really taper off Sunday. Sunday evening, it's going to taper off. There'll be some people left, but
Nah.
no, it was like near our peak. It was like just kept going up, and then it was like, Europe went to bed, and we're like, hey guys, it's not really going down that much. We gotta pull the
It's
plug.
crazy. It's crazy. We played till the end. I mean, I'm talking about. I played till it just stopped me. I was like, oh, I feel like a kid
Yeah, I was
back in
playing
the
to the
arcade.
end. I was doing all kind of different mix-ups with the
Mm-hmm.
people and the outfits and stuff, which I thought was really fun.
Yeah, it was so
Yeah.
dope, man, and we're super excited for it. Marcus, I think it's only right if you take us out, ask a question. Derek, you didn't get to ask. If you got any questions, you
Yeah,
drop some
let
gems
Derek
too.
ask a question because Johnny's crying. So I'm gonna jump, but I'll be right back. If I don't get back in time, I got.
Priorities.
Take care of
Real
it.
life, guys. This is real life. We're bringing it to
Real
you.
life.
Real life at the real time. Karthik, thank you. Derek,
I
Derek,
do
you got
have
a
a
question?
question.
Go for it.
Do you feel like a minority in the industry?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I mean, I think I think it's look. I mean, I think it's a tough time for everybody right now. I
mm,
think it's I don't I get I'm treated with respect, and I respect people and people within the industry, but I still feel that way, and I think that as gaming, and game development widens, to not just players, but developers. Oh, so cute. Um, but as developers, and like game development is growing in India, for example. Um, it's really great to see a lot more diversity. But yeah, sure, I still feel that way, and I still feel like we got a ways to go, and but it's moving in the right direction, and I don't feel bad about it, I feel proud about it, and but it's always kind of a thing.
We feel proud of you. We feel proud of you, and I agree. I think the industry's going in that direction, and I love that trend, and I'm glad that uh, Derek. What a great question, because that's important, right? It's
Yeah.
important to to show the ability of a lot of the people there out there who are minorities who may feel like, how do I get in? That's the number one question you get asked, right? Like, just as I'm on the marketing consulting side, and the number one question I get asked by people who don't know what it is, maybe I do, or maybe Derek does, or Red does, like, how do you get into that? I don't see any of us in it, and stories like yours are just super empowering because you really had to walk up to Tony Hawk with the on
Yeah.
the floor at E3 and be like, "Yo, nah, this is
He
hot.
had the finesse.
This is
Yo.
hot.
Way
Like,
taller, way taller than me.
yo, like this is hot. You need to deal with this right here." And just to see that, I mean, you guys can do it, man. You can do it, and man, I just want to say thank you for coming through. We're super
Yeah, thank you for your
excited.
story.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much. We're
no
super
problem at
excited for
all.
the game.
Very.
You just added fuel to the fire. That's all you did. I hope you guys all out there get on there. I'm gonna beat all of you. Okay. Just want you to know.
I be
Marcus, do you
okay.
have a question? I don't know if you got one.
I have one about brands, but we've got people tuning in from the African region and around the world. So I really want us to circle back around and talk about the opportunity to actually be inclusive for an entire global gaming industry, which is not something we talked about this last week. We talked about it for weeks. That's not what you see in this space. And it's a massive opportunity because African region by itself is 1.3 billion people. I think
Right.
Yeah.
South America or the LATAM area is 270 million gamers.
Right.
So it's not just, again, like the moral thing to do, but it's a good business opportunity. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, look, I think that those are massive opportunities, and as an indie studio, I mean, the cool thing is with this relationship with EA is EA is so super supportive about. I mean, their whole EA Originals label is around being experimental with indie developers, and so when we see these opportunities like going into the beta, we made a purposeful choice of setting up a data center in Cape Town. We made a purposeful decision to put servers up in Sao Paulo, and we're observing where the players are. And as we get more players, and we're seeing what the ping times are like, and where they're matchmaking to, and the skill level of players, I tell you what's going to happen. the The industry is just going to follow the data. As more and more people get into it, and you're seeing the engagement and and the monetization, as part of it, they're going to follow that. And it takes a bit of a leap of faith, to make that investment. But there's ways to do it, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have an opportunity to do that, with Knockout City, and we're going to be looking at the numbers. And as an indie studio, we're going to, we got to make choices, and trade-offs every day in terms of features that we work on, and cost and of putting up servers and all that kind of stuff. But like those costs are going down. That's the other thing, right? Cost of bandwidth and all of these things go down, over time. And as more players are getting into it, and as the cost of infrastructure goes down, and even like the cost of just trying it, doing a little pilot and seeing how it goes, right? When you see that, and you've got a game that resonates, right? If the game doesn't resonate for a market, no matter what you do, you're not gonna be able to,
Right.
grow it. But if let's say Knockout City, resonates in these emergent markets, wherever there may be, we're gonna try to follow that. And I'm really hopeful, because when I see the growth of it, it's pretty phenomenal. Back in early 2000s, I went to China, and a friend of mine asked me to go there to teach game development to a bunch of game developers in China. This was like maybe 2002, 2003 or so, and it was early days, for China. And of course, I don't speak, Mandarin or Cantonese, and I went there, and I was teaching in English, with a translator, and all these developers who were like just learning how to make games. It reminded me of me 10 years back trying to figure out how to make games, right?
Right.
And it was very early for that industry and what they were, what developers are trying to do. And within like minutes, we were like laughing and joking, and we were like, we're just a bunch of game developers. Doesn't It just breaks down culturally, right? And we're all the same. And there was this aha moment for me going, oh man, China's going to become the biggest market in the world for video games. And this is like 20 years ago, right? And game development, and they were just so eager and hungry, and they're going to make this work. And there was this massive population who were, really smart, and they didn't have a lot of the existing infrastructure that holds things back. They were building new infrastructure to take it forward and take advantage of the latest technologies. I see that with Africa right now, and I see that in South America and other
Same.
places. And India is massively growing. It's this rapid acceleration, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be faster and more aggressive than China was in the last 20 years. So I see a huge opportunity there, and you just feel it from the energy, and enthusiasm that people have. It's the same enthusiasm we have as entrepreneurs, and I got a theory about it, and I think that my theory is like you learn how to hustle.
That's right.
And like when you learn how to hustle like that, you become good entrepreneurs.
That
you know
You are music to my ears, brother. Music to my ears. We preach this at Eat for Life, and we know that it takes, that intangible hustle, and like, first of all, we want to give a shout out to the president of Esports Ghana Association, Kwesi Hayford. He is super excited about Knockout City and just esports in general. He's been helping that scene over in Africa and Ghana grow, and so just hearing that bone get thrown really makes us happy. He's tuned in right now, so love to hear that. And two, I would definitely bet if any of you guys are watching, he went to China 20 years ago and had the foresight on what China is. And if you don't know, Asia is one of the bigger, their mobile community is bigger than a lot of our console communities. So, that alone, they have games that are bigger than our entire ecosystem, right? So if you already saw that back then you guys better listen in about Africa. If you don't believe us, but at least listen to Karthik. I mean, we've been telling you that it's coming. You can see the hunger and that same passion you're talking about in that community, and they're doing it for themselves. They really don't have that mass support yet. Like you said, it's kind of everybody's looking at it right now, but it's coming, and I'm super excited about it. So
yeah, I mean, it's the nature of play is fundamental to human nature,
right,
and it's important to all of us. And video games have the ability to bring everybody together to play, no matter where you are or who you are. Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, said one time, it's like the great equalizer, because it doesn't matter who you are, what abilities or disabilities or anything, right? It's like it's the great equalizer in bringing people together. And to me, it's when you look at there's more than 2 billion people play video games on this planet, and we're at 7 billion plus as a population. That means we got 5 billion more potential gamers.
right,
And
right.
it's like so it's gonna happen.
Question: how long ago did you hear Phil Spencer say that?
Maybe a year and a half ago.
Marcus, how long have I been saying the great equalizer?
2 years.
Since 2017.
For the world to know, okay? I don't want to toot my own horn, but I had called it the great equalizer for a long time, okay? I just share the same sentiment. I mean, I just think it just is, I played professionally for 8 to 10 years, and what I saw in my journeys around the world was that it didn't matter if you were a girl, it didn't matter if you, you had, physical disabilities, different, mental capacities, things like that. It brings people together, gaming, in a way that is why we do this. And so I just love what you said, and Marcus, please wrap us up here because I'm
All right,
too
well,
stimulated to do it.
Karthik, and if I'm mispronouncing your name, and as I've done this entire episode, I don't know if I've done that right. But oh well, here we're at the end. I'll get it right next time. Thank you for being generous of your time. I know that we talked originally about this being an hour, and here we are closing in on 2 hours. So
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I keep talking about it, and thanks for letting me talk. But yeah, it's been super fun. Some great questions. Some really thought provoking stuff as well. So I'm as passionate about video games as I was when I was 15, and so I can talk your ear off about it. But it's great. Thanks for playing Knockout City and Mario Kart Live. That's like the best part. When people play your creative work. There's that's where I get so much satisfaction.
It's amazing.
Well, you can find this episode tomorrow wherever you enjoy your other favorite podcasts. If you like this episode and the series as a whole, please leave us a comment and a like. We're trying to increase the reach so we can share these gems with other people, help them eat for life. With that, everybody, if you have anything real quick, one-liner you want to share that you got coming up, please share that. I know for me, I'm speaking with some Broward County underrepresented students about the career opportunities in gaming, esports around blockchain and crypto. I'm also presenting a presentation for Exola Capital or Exola about why games should get into esports. That was long-winded because it's been a long day, but that's what I got coming up this week.
I have a book dropping this week. It's called Esports Unlocked. In the first chapter, I talk about being a brand ambassador and how it's an entry-level way for you to get into the industry. And something that me and Karthik share is I got my break into the industry by brand ambassadoring at E3 and learning how to network with people at booths. So if you don't at least see how it helped me, you got, a huge game developer who did the same thing. So I'm not just telling you guys. It's a great way, especially as entrepreneurs, to get in. And I definitely share a lot of gems in Esports Unlocked. It drops tomorrow. I'm super excited to share it with you guys. And that's what we got going on this week. How about you, Red? Or Derek? Oh, Red, we lost you.
You're muted.
You can hear me? Oh, I'm muted. My bad. Just streaming more content. I cannot wait to cover and stream Knockout City and just some other games coming out this May down the pipeline. So that's what I got coming up.
Hey, the work continues. Hey, E for life.
Sounds good to me.
And Knockout City May 21st.
Knockout City May 21st. We're all ready for that. May 21, Knockout City. Midnight. Okay? Midnight. You can find me at midnight. If you want problems with me, midnight. Got my red ball. I'm ready. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. We're going to jump off. Commando for the win says same. It's 3 days before his birthday. He'll be there at midnight, just so you know. So thank you again, Karthik, for coming through. We're looking forward to Knockout City. And you guys know this is where you come to get your gems. I hope you learned a lot tonight. And we're going to be sharing more in the future. And we'll talk to you soon. And when it comes to esports education, entertainment, and what's that last E? Esports education, entertainment, entrepreneurship. Please always consider Eat for Life as your number one source in the esports ecosystem. Love you guys. Holla back. See you later.